We want to make a opening book GIF. So in this instance, we've got the happy book, and this can be your brand colors, maybe your logo, maybe it could be an author's logo with their name on it, and you could put their signature on the inside of it. But it's very simple, and it's all about switching over the cover to give it that illusion that it's actually flipping, whereas it's actually two different layers. So let's get into it. First, we want to create a new composition. We can make this 500 by 500 and make it 3 seconds and 2 seconds, which is my other animation. We'll call this book. So we want to draw the back page of our book. So we'll just add in a new shape layer and make this a rounded rectangle and give it a white fill and a stroke that could be a light grey. So we actually need to fit in 2 of these pages for when the cover opens, so don't make it too big. If you do make it too big, you can always adjust your composition settings and make your scene a bit bigger. So let's call this the back page, and we won't actually be moving this at all, but just for habit's sake, just move the anchor point in there. And now we want to make our cover. So let's just duplicate this layer so we've got the exact same dimensions, and we just put it side by side here, and we'll change the color of the cover to be whatever you like, maybe your favorite colors or your brand colors, and then give that a fill as well. We'll call this front cover. So as this book front cover is actually going to be opening and starting from here, we want to have the anchor point in this direction here. So we'll click Y and move it to here. Now we want to add in 2 different positions. So for the position, we're not actually going to use the position keyframes. We're going to use the scaling transform option, but we're going to unlink it. So with your scale, just unlink this here, and it means that you can adjust this scale here. So at the very start, we want to have the front cover about here, so minus 100. I'm going to add in a keyframe, and then when the book completely opens, let's just say 1 second to start, we want to go the complete reverse. So we want to put it at 100, and then we'll relink it. So you can see here that the book cover is opening. And at this point here, you can see there's a bit of a gap. So you can always adjust it to go in a little bit further, so we remove that gap. And then we can center both of these covers. And here's a grid as well, if you get a bit pedantic with where your layers are, so you can just really make sure that they're right in the center. So now we've got our cover opening, we want to add a couple of lines on the page. So let's create a new shape layer, and let's get the pen tool and get rid of the fill and make this a light grey, probably the same color as your border of your page. And then we just want to click and make a line across the page. Now let's change this stroke to a round cap, so this looks a bit nicer, and especially because we've got rounded rectangles, we don't want any sharp edges. And let's move the anchor point here. Now we want to apply a really cool effect called trim paths. So this little guy here, let's click the play button and add trim paths. And we want to focus on this end option here. So let's put a stopwatch at the end here and make it 0. And then whenever you want the line to finish drawing out, you make this 100, and that will draw the line for you. So this is really cool if you've got a signature or some text that you want to look like it's been hand drawn. It will just follow the path and draw it out from start to finish. So we of course only want this text to start drawing when the page opens. So we don't want it to start drawing when the cover is on the book. So whenever you'd like it to start, just make sure that that blue ticker is starting off when you want the text to start. So we'll call this line 1. Then when we want more lines of text, you can drag this across and then reposition just using your keys on your keyboard. So that means once that first line has already been drawn, the other one started, and then you can add as many lines as you like and reposition it. And there you've got your 3 lines of text which are actually drawing out in your book. So instead of having a smiley face here, you could have your signature. So an example of this could be a new shape layer, and you've got your stroke. Let's make it a dark pink. And in my signatures instance, it could be something like this. So I've got a Z and then an S. And again, I will round this cap. And then I will add a trim path effect to it. So let's say I want it to start drawing here, and then I want it to end here. So see how fast that is? If I want it to go a bit slower, I just drag out the end point. And then let's play that all together. And if you don't like the stroke or the path that you've drawn for your signature, you can always change the point. So if I click on my shape layer here, you can see these points are actually adjustable. So you don't need to freak out if you've drawn a path that isn't great. You can always go back and adjust it to make it look a bit prettier. There we go. So now if you want to put a book cover on, what you can do is duplicate this front cover. Then we want to have a title. So let's just give your book a title. Scale that down. Change the color. And we want to have this connected to the front cover. So when the front cover is scaling, we want this to follow suit. So instead of adjusting the scale on this independently, we can just parent and link it to our front cover. So you can either click the drop down here, or you can drag this little squiggly dude to the front cover. And you can see there that it is completely followed direction. And I think it's always better to parent when you're trying to mimic something, because if it's off frame very slightly, if you do it independently, it can be quite obvious and look a bit like a glitch. So now that we've got our title connected to our front cover, we don't want the title to appear when the book is like this, just because it doesn't look great. I mean, you can have it if you like, but I don't think many books are transparent these days. So with your front cover, you can view your keyframes here. So at this point here, you can see that you can't see any cover. So the duplicated cover, we actually just want to cut this off here because we don't want to see it until this point. And then we do want to see it at this point here. So we'd bring it above our title. And it's just switching it over. So it's giving that illusion that it's the back of this cover, but it's actually just a duplicate that we've cut at the point where nothing is seen. So there we go. Play it all together.